the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Hi, I'm Sharon from the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. I made this video to give you some ways of maximizing lighting to see and read better. I geared it for people with low vision, but the guidelines will work for most people. The first part is about understanding and minimizing glare, and we'll be viewing a video I made to explain this concept. That will be followed by information about good lamp types and positioning for reading. Finally, we'll look at different light choices available and briefly go through them to gain an understanding of how they affect seeing and, more importantly, reading.
For best vision use, reducing glare is important. Too much light from the wrong direction can make it harder to see. Consider when you are choosing a spot to sit at a dining room table. Which seat is the best to minimize glare? If you sit facing a window, you will have a hard time seeing the details of the person sitting across from you. If you sit with the window to your side or slightly behind you, it is easier to see the person. You can think of reading the same way. If the light shining off the paper causes glare, tilt the paper and see if it helps. In these photos, I've changed the angle of the paper by placing two 3-ring binders beneath it, angling it more toward the reader. Or you can change the angle of the light, as in these photos, with the desk lamp at different angles and heights. Use your judgment to see which adjustments look the best. For best vision use, controlling the lighting is important. Often, when people read, they use whatever overhead lighting is available. This is often not enough for best vision use when reading. One way to increase lighting is to place a lamp next to you. However, the type of lamp does make a difference in readability. A standard lamp with a shade may provide some light, but possibly not enough to help much. On the other hand, a desk lamp like a gooseneck or a swing arm lamp like that shown here can provide more light where you need it, on the paper, because it can be angled in many more ways. The same things are true for reading at your favorite chair in the living room. A standard table lamp may look nice and provide pleasant ambiance, but may not provide enough light to read by. A floor lamp with a gooseneck is a better choice for reading. Nowadays, there are lamps with bulbs and many others that have LED lights built in, which are very adjustable.
In this video, we'll learn about choosing light bulbs for better reading, specifically learning about the color temperature of light and how that affects reading. Many times, people read using overhead light or whatever lamp is around. A surprise to many people is that the color of the light coming from the bulbs can be very different, like in this photo. Notice that the outer two lights are more yellow than the center one. They have the same type of LED bulbs, but the color of the light they produce is quite different. The colors on this graph represent the basic light spectrum. The left goes from red to orange to yellow. These are warm colors. To the right of center, it shows white to blue to indigo. These are cool colors. Think of light like this graph, where some light is warmer and some is cooler, and each affects reading. Let's look at warm light. The bulbs in lamps many of us grew up with are warm. They tend to be at around 3000 Kelvin, which is a measure of light hue. Warm light appears more yellow. It can seem more relaxing, but it may make print appear less clear to people with low vision. The exception is people who are sensitive to bright light might prefer warmer light for reading. Cool light bulbs, like in the swing arm and floor lamps, provides whiter light, making the print appear clear and crisp to many people with low vision. These bulbs are often in the 4,200 to 5,000 Kelvin range. You can find the Kelvin measure of each bulb on the box under light temperature or light appearance. There is usually a scale from warm to cool with the bulb's hue indicated on the scale. To find out if your current bulbs are warm or cool, you may need someone with good vision to look at the base of the bulb at the very, very tiny print for the number followed by a K. This is that Kelvin measure of that bulb. The real test is to try one in your favorite nearby lamp when you next read and see if you notice a difference. Happy reading! Another area that people often wonder about is what type of bulb to use. There are so many choices on the market now that it can be confusing. So let's take a look at some types and explore pros and cons of each. Hopefully that will help you find the one that works best for you. Incandescent bulbs. These are the bulbs that most of us grew up with. They are most often bulb shape. We often think of a 25-watt incandescent bulb as being dim and a 150-watt bulb as being very bright. Some pros are that you may have them already, so you may not need to go out and buy any. Some of them are dimmable, and we're familiar with these. But there's a lot of cons to these. They use a high amount of energy. A 60-watt bulb uses 60 watts, or for instance, $1.80 per month to run for 6 hours a day. They often appear yellow or warm looking, which isn't really great for seeing contrast. They don't really last that long. Fluorescent bulbs, or CFL, compact fluorescent bulbs. They are often shaped like a light bulb, but made with a thin, curly tube. There's other kinds that are long tubes that screw into overhead fixtures, for instance, in stores. They can be cool, almost blue looking, to warm in color, and they do come in common wattages of 8 to 55 watts. Some pros of these are that you may have these already as well. They do use less energy than incandescent bulbs. For instance, an equivalent of an incandescent 60-watt bulb only uses 15 watts. So the energy to run that bulb for 6 hours a day would cost 45 cents per month. They're cooler to touch than incandescent bulbs. And of course, as mentioned earlier, they are now available in color temperatures of warm to cool. And some are even dimmable. Some of the cons are that they are thinner and can break more easily. They do contain mercury, and mercury is hazardous for your health as well as to dispose of safely. The light in them sometimes can appear to people to be too blue. And they also can appear to flicker to some people, which can cause eye fatigue or headaches in some people. Light-emitting diodes, otherwise known as LED bulbs. These are relatively new to the market in the last 10 years or so, but they have been around since about the 1960s. They can be in many shapes and sizes, but they often come in a common bulb shape that's similar to incandescence. They can be any brightness. Common wattages are between 4 and 28 watts, and the color temperatures are from warm to cool. Some pros of LEDs: they use the least amount of energy of all. For instance, the equivalent of a 60-watt incandescent bulb only uses 6 to 10 watts. So the energy cost to run that for 6 hours a day is 21 cents per month. As mentioned earlier, they come in warm to cool colors. They can last a really long time, often years. They're the coolest to touch of all. They're often less breakable than fluorescents. In fact, often they have a plastic bulb, and some of them are dimmable. Cons. You may need to purchase these. You may not have them. And they do contain some rare earth materials, which are precious and tricky to dispose of. So what does this all boil down to? Well, choosing the best bulb for your vision is the important thing. Many people with low vision seem to benefit from the cool white colors of light temperature because the LED bulbs seem to have more benefits than some of the other bulbs. Those are the bulbs that I would recommend. They are the coolest to touch, they can last the longest, and they tend to be the cheapest to run. They take the least amount of electricity. They come in a variety of colors and sizes and shapes, so you can often find some to fit pretty much any light fixture now in your house, including small candelabra-like chandelier bulbs. If you're someone who has light sensitivity and bright light is bothersome, you may benefit from an incandescent bulb because they can give you warmer light. However, LEDs also come in touch lamps that can vary the light output as well as the color temperature, and those can be beneficial for anyone actually. So look at the bulbs that you have in your house, think about your vision needs, and consider if what you have for light bulbs and in your current lamps maximizes your vision. If not, try a different kind of bulb. Try a fluorescent, try an LED in just one lamp and see if that helps you to see better. You can apply the information I've shared with you here to adjust areas of your home to help you to read and see as well as possible. These basic considerations are often overlooked as not being important, but for most people, they provide the basis for good viewing. Thanks for joining me.
If you or a loved one needs assistance coping with vision loss, contact the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired at 802-863-1358, or to learn more, go to our website, www.vabvi.org.